All right, welcome back to video number 7, where we are going to focus on the roof. We need to get all these little pieces cut out, and this is going to take a little bit of time. This is a little bit more advanced than doing the walls even. So if you thought the walls are really tricky, you're going to be in for a real treat here. If you thought this was fun and you're just warming up, you got a challenge coming. So I'm going to pull apart my lumber stack for the roofing materials, which is out of the 1x6 scaled pieces. Let's go ahead and open this bundle up. This tape off of here. Okay. Same thing we did before. First thing you do when you get your bundle, let's inspect it. So let's see what we got. Well, this is a pretty good bundle. I got lucky on this one. Maybe there's a little knot right here, and this is going to be a weak piece. I don't know if that knot actually looks like that may pop out. Yep. You see that? That knot just popped right out. So that's a loose knot. So that's a weak piece. Ideally, we'll try not to use that for one of the big rafters. Other than that, all the rest of my pieces look pretty good. What I want to do, since I don't have to be too picky about these pieces, is I'm going to start by probably just taking one of them and getting a rough measurement of size. Okay, let's come into here. And I need to be at least to here. I'm going to give myself a little extra. Okay? So just so that it's easier to mark and work with, I'm going to cut this off at that size just to shorten it a little bit. So let me go ahead and grab my block that I'm working on. I'll grab my miter block here and then take the saw. Let's make sure we're not cutting it too short. Okay. So I'm going to do this just so we have this a little bit easier to mark out. There are a couple of tricks to this that I have acquired over the years. I can show you guys. Get rid of that. I'm going to turn this sideways so that I have easier access to the paper, first of all. Then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take and draw the lines to the model a little bit further than they actually go. So that line and that line needs to go a little further than normal. You see how I'm... Let's see, I don't know, maybe it's a little overexposed. See if I can darken that for you guys just a little bit. That might be a little easier to see. Okay, and so now what we want to do is take this piece and lay it over where we got to go. And then we're going to grab another stick that we know is straight. Could be any stick, okay? But a little straight piece of wood. And with this one perfectly in place, then we can lay this over the top of where that line is on the paper, looking straight down on top of it. And I'm just tracing that line on top. Okay? So you're going to have to just stick my head in here for a second so I can see. So I got those two cuts. And then there's another cut out in here, which is this cut and this cut. I have this line here and I have that line there. So I'm going to put this back where it belongs. I'll show you how we're going to do the bird's mouth. So I'm going to lay this stick here in line. And then I'm going to lay this stick here in line, kind of sighting down and eyeballing that way. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to I need to cut out this bird's mouth here. I need to cut off this little tail here. I need to cut the plumb cut of the ridge right there. And so now we have some angle cuts. These are a little bit more challenging than the previous cuts. And this side, this angle, you'll see, is not the same as this angle. So this guide is not going to help us as much. So this is really going to test your saw skills at this point. I'm going to have to hold this a little bit long. I'm going to take my saw. I'm going to get it fairly close. I don't want it to hang over too far. And then I'm just going to really lightly put a little nick in it. See if I can get a little closer to this so you guys can really see what I'm doing here, okay? I'm going to just put a little nick in it like that. And the saw blade is staying totally lined up with the blade. The blade is staying lined up with the line. And you can see I'm just slowly working it back and forth. Now I've got a cut going all the way across even with that line. But the line is still on the part. I didn't cut the line off. And that's really important. Okay? So as I work my way through this, I slowly cut that extra off. And you want to leave the line on the part. Let me see if I can really get down in there and show you guys that that line is still left here on the original part that we drew. And the reason is that allows me to then take this and hit it on some sandpaper really, really accurately until it's perfect. Okay, let's get this one done. I'm going to flip it over. Now let's get this side. Again, I'm going to really, really light on the saw blade. I mean, this is so light. The blade will do its cutting. All you got to do is move it. You don't have to push on it. Okay. So those two cuts are the easier cuts to do. Now we've got to do this plumb cut. For that one, I've got to stand it up like this. Okay, this is going to be a little harder to see. Let's back up here with the camera. I'm going to stand this up to where I can see it from where I'm sitting. And I'm then going to take my blade, put a nick right there where that starts, and then I'm going to have to come in at an angle. So that's the first cut. Now this really steep cut is going to be a little bit harder, but it's doable. The way you start this is you start with a cut that's straight up and down. Okay, so I've got a groove, a nick in the board right there. That way I have somewhere for the saw blade to sit so it doesn't just scoot across the surface. Otherwise it's just going to want to keep moving on you. Then we're going to take in that groove, we're going to take and match the angle with the blade. Okay, and then I'm going to just really lightly start pulling back and forth. Until that little piece comes out. Okay, and then there you can see we have our first rafter completely cut out. It does need a little bit of cleanup. So for this edge, this is what I would recommend doing. You can take your paper, fold it over a sharp corner, like the back of your block. Okay, and if you hold this up against the edge like this, you can just rub this 1 or 2 times on that edge and it'll just clean it right up. That's all it needs. Okay, if you cut it right, that should be all it needs. This edge here, I'm just going to back this up a couple of times right to our pencil mark. Okay, and then there you go. You got one rafter cut out. So that's the process of cutting out a rafter. And if you want to cut them all out the same way, it'll take you a little bit of time. You'll be done, relatively quickly, and everything will work itself out. But that fits back on there. I'm just testing this now. It looks like actually I might have overdone this line. This line needs to come back a little further, and I need to take a little bit more out of the seat of the bird's mouth here. So that's such a little bit. I'm just going to sand it inside that groove until that fits just right. Let's try that again. That looks much better. The top looks good, but this tail is still down here. It's still a little bit long. So this needs to come off by like that much more, which is enough that I can sand it or cut it. Okay, if I can cut that little bit, I should try. It's a really small amount though. We'll see if I can do that. All right, there we go. So, pull back on the sandpaper, just a couple of strokes, and let's test fit it again. See if we're where we need to be. That looks great. I can just see my pencil line here. I can see the pencil line on the back over here. I can see the bird's mouth insert right here. That is great. So I need to cut several of these out. If you look at the model that we've got going with this project, there's actually 6 of these. So we have 3 on either side, so that's 6 total. So I'm going to have you go ahead and cut out 6 of these rafters before we come back together with the next video. I'll cut the rest of them off of the video. I won't waste your time with that, now that you know how to do that one. And then the other pieces you'll need to cut out are this long piece right here. These are the ceiling joists. And then you're also going to need to cut out these double top plates for putting the wall together. These need to be put on top of the wall during the next video. Excuse me. So that's what these plates are here. This one with the X, this long one, and this right here. These are the double top plates. So we'll put those on during the next session, as well as we'll put on these ceiling blocks and these rafter pieces. We'll need to cut out this ridge board right here, and we'll put it all together. It should be fun. We'll also we'll need to cut these little pieces out here as well, which these are pretty simple. If you just take and mark out this length here, that's the little piece that needs to be cut out, X on that side. But this does wrap around, so what we'll need to do is then from here, where it just intersects, we're going to cut a notch back this far. And then the way that I measure it is I'm going to put back a piece of wood on here, and we're going to draw the line. Okay, so that tells me I actually need to notch. This whole part here needs to get cut out. Okay, so this L is the good piece out of that one, which makes that a little bit trickier to cut out. Oh, you guys can't even see that. I'm sorry. Sometimes the camera drifts. I apologize. Let's get this a little closer in here. You guys see how that works? So this is a little piece that we need to cut out for this one right here. Okay, and like I said, I used this piece here to get the thickness of that line, and I just put this right on top of the wall here to figure out where that thing's going to intersect. Actually, maybe it needs to come back down to there. So all that needs to get cut out, and I'm left with that little L. And then this next one will be similar to that. So if this next one will be like this, we'll go ahead and mark this one out. That's not very square. Let's square that up before we mark it. Just look at it, you can tell it's got an angle to it sometimes. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so now if I hold that right there on the base, and I mark right here where this intersects, from here up to this point here at the top, I'm going to need to cut off a notch out of it. Okay, that's the notch we need to cut out. And I did, again, I just used this piece of wood to mark that on the back side, and that's that piece will go in here, so the rafter can go where that notch is going to be eventually when it sits in like this. This piece here, for the ridge, that piece is more of a standard rafter piece. So that one is just a piece like this, cut to length. It's just going to sit in there and hold up that ridge beam. So I've got all those little pieces to cut out. And then these two are just identical with these two, which you can see here. I'll cut one of those out for you just so you see how that works. So before I cut this whole little thing off and I only have a little bit to hold on to, I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to cut from the top down just a little bit. And you only need to cut till you get to that line right there. And then I need to cut off the whole top of this. So we'll line this up as usual with our block. Okay. So I got this part. Now the tricky part is going to be cutting this here. That gets a little bit more difficult. If you have a pair of pliers to hold on to this, you may want to hold on to a pair of pliers. You can also use something like a clamp. Okay, so I've got my clamp here. I'm going to hold on to it with a clamp so I can free my hand, get my hand out of the way. In fact, if I can, you may even want to do something like this. I might want to put my mark on the backside. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to take this mark and I'm going to transfer it to the backside so that I can see what I'm doing while working on this with my right hand because I'm right-handed. Okay, so now I got the mark on this side. I can then take this and clamp it to the block here. Okay, and now with my hand over here away from the danger zone, I can really lightly cut that out. Very gentle pressure, total control in everything that you're doing. There's no need to rush this. You don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want to cut yourself. You know, that's that little part right there. Okay, so that one's going to go right there. I need another one of those. Let's cut out one more. I'm going to actually need a couple more of those, but I'm going to let you guys cut some of those out on your own. So that's going to get notched there. And it's going to get notched here. So I just marked it there so that I can turn this on its edge. Now that I see where the mark is, I can pull back and come down by the right thickness. Okay, so again, I need to cut that out. I'm going to transfer my mark onto the other side so it's easier for me. So I need to cut off that little section right there, little square. In this case, I'm just going to hold this flat against the wood piece here. This is getting pretty small. Let's see if I can do it like this. See, this clamp will grab it tight enough. I know some of you guys might have some power tools at home, but you don't want to do this cut with a power tool. This really wants to be done with a hand tool, something very slow, very controlled, something that you're not going to hurt yourself with. This is not a hand tool operation. There we go. Okay. So again, I've got a little bit of the wood left right above the line, so I'm just going to take this and sand it over a block. That comes down to the right size. Here we go. So that's that little block. That's going to go there. Okay, cut out like a little L. And the idea is that when this is flush to the edge of the wall, this rafter will be able to sit in here with these pieces. And this is all flush. It's even. Okay, as you can kind of see it from this angle, it's even. That's the goal here. So I'm going to let you guys go to work. You should know how to cut out the double top plates. Just measure this piece here. Oh, see, it would help if you guys can see what I'm pointing to. If you measure this piece here, this double top plate, the long one, and this double top plate and that double top plate over here, get those 3 plates cut out. Finish getting your rafters cut out your gable end blocking, and then I will help you with the ceiling joists when we come back. Don't worry about those quite yet. Okay?